Okay, if you haven't already watched it, we've got a SAG Film Awards preview for you, available on our homepage. But this is television, and television with SAG Awards, you just don't know. I mean, they don't often embrace brand new stuff. They like what they like, and they like it to death. Like Alec Baldwin won 7 years in a row. So we'll see what happens this coming weekend. But we've got Daniel Montgomery here, Marcus Dixon, Paul Sheehan. And Daniel, let's start with drama. Let's start with you. Tell us about your, tell us about what you're thinking for all three drama categories right now.
Well, yeah, we were talking a little bit before we started that there are at least 2 or 3 strong candidates in just about every category, so we could be wrong about everything. But, you know, for TV drama ensemble, I've got House of Cards. I have that very narrowly ahead of Game of Thrones. I'm not too confident about that. You know, but it does have that, that highly prestigious cast with Kevin Spacey and Robin Wright, who were nominated in the individual categories. So, you know, I feel like maybe that snob appeal will push it out front, even though Game of Thrones has by far the biggest cast. Well, not by far. You got, you know, something like Downton Abbey, which I think could also win because it has that same kind of large cast, a lot of group interaction. It won before, so I'm going with House of Cards, but yeah, not confidently at all. And then TV drama actor, I've got Kevin Spacey, narrowly ahead of Matthew McConaughey. I think either one of those could win. But I think we saw at the Golden Globes, you know, where they're very trendy and they like what's new and what's fresh. They didn't even go for Matthew McConaughey. Maybe that was just too long ago. Maybe the spell has worn off of True Detective a bit, and you've got someone like Kevin Spacey who has, you know, as much, if not more, esteem in the acting community than McConaughey. And then TV drama actress is a real toss-up. This could go any of 4 ways, I think. Juliana Margulies, Viola Davis, Maggie Smith, or Robin Wright. I think any of them could win this plausibly. I've got Juliana Margulies. They love her, like Chris said. When they love something, they love it to death, and they don't award her every year. But we know they love her. But we also know they love Viola Davis, who won for The Help, both individually and ensemble. And then we know they love Maggie Smith. They awarded her last year, and they certainly love repeats. And they like House of Cards, and Robin Wright is a big movie star, and she could win here too. So, yeah.
So Robin Wright.
Let's go back though. I want to just jump back a little bit into to do, because I think we should do category by category as opposed to that kind of genre.
Okay, sure.
Yeah, just because I was enjoying what Daniel was saying about drama ensemble, and then suddenly we've moved on. So now, House of Cards, it didn't contend here last year, right? That was an eligibility issue, was it? That it hadn't aired?
No, like we said at the top, sometimes, I mean, they are not the first ones to jump on a train. Right after Homeland won, swept the Golden Globes, you know, SAG nominations had already come out, and they weren't even up at SAG like 2 weeks later, first year. House of Cards just was not nominated last year.
All right, so House of Cards is contending now for season 2.
That's correct.
It's not season 1, it's season 2. So no nominations last year, and yet there's a feeling that it's going to win potentially. You know, now I've got Game of Thrones in there, and I know one of our other editors does, and that's kind of what our overall odds say. And I don't really have any rationale for that other than that's what our overall odds say. But Marcus, who are you predicting for drama series?
It's so close right now. I have House of Cards and Boardwalk Empire. Look, Boardwalk Empire is beloved by the SAG Awards, and it was its final season. It just aired right at the end of the eligibility period, and it was a really, really good season too. And they, yes, they killed off a lot of people like season 4, so the cast was smaller in season 5. But what they did, which was genius, is they showed a ton of flashbacks. They found people that looked exactly like Steve Buscemi and his brother to play them in flashbacks.
Wow.
So I don't know. That could be the upset here. And when we look back, we'll say, why weren't we predicting that? They love Boardwalk Empire.
And it's won a couple of times, right? Isn't it won the Ensemble
Yes.
Award?
Yeah,
and I think
Buscemi's
won. And then Downton Abbey. I mean, it's interesting. I'm very mindful of how we underestimated how Downton was going to do with Emmy nominations, and then how well it did. And then again, you saw at the Globes, Joanne Froggatt winning that catch-all supporting category. I mean, Downton is huge. You know, the voting just ended as Downton premieres this new season on PBS in yet another round of record numbers. So you know, it's funny. I'm talking myself out of Game of Thrones now because I don't really know, other than it's got the most. I mean, as we're talking on the film side about, it's sort of the Grand Budapest of TV, in that it's probably got 25 people among the nominees. But is there? How surprised would you be, Chris, to see Game of Thrones win?
I think I've got Game in second. My theory on SAG generally is bigger. They think bigger equals best. And so, to me, the two biggest ensembles in this category are Downton and Game of Thrones. The difference is, though, to me, and this is why I'm going with Downton, there's 2 or 3 reasons I'm going with Downton. First of all, it just won 2 years ago. How do we know it wouldn't have won last year if Breaking Bad hadn't been on such a big momentum, you know, for its final? And when Downton won 2 years ago, that was a shocker. I mean, a big shocker. Nobody predicted that, hardly. But if you just compare Downton and Game and the fact that they have big ensembles, Game only has a handful of people that most folks even know. Almost everybody in there is great at their job, but they're you know, essentially, you know, people, just actors that we don't know. Whereas Downton, after 4 years, you know, we basically know this cast. I think I'm going with Downton. I think the only 2 shows out of these 5 that have won here before, so we know they like them, are Boardwalk and Downton. Boardwalk, though, won its first 2 times out. And they generally don't go back after an extended period of time. Even shows they loved, like Mad Men and West Wing, ER, they awarded early on, but they didn't come back to them later.
And we're saying they. I mean, just to clarify, I mean, I think there's oh gosh, I'm gonna say the number wrong. There's over 1,000. I can't remember exactly how many it is that are on the nominating committee. 1,000 members of this guild. But then the voting is open to the entire guild membership, which numbers well over 100,000. So it really is. It sort of accounts for Betty White winning. You know, it's a popular vote and populist fare. And that's why I guess we think of shows like Downton and Game of Thrones that are huge in the ratings.
And Paul, I don't think it can be underestimated. You mentioned about Downton. I mean, the timing couldn't be better for their voting. The nominations would have been out certainly before the new season started, but they've been voting all the way up until, what, this week? So they would have seen 2 or 3 episodes of this season.
Until actually tomorrow, till Friday. Voting till Friday.
Now you have me questioning that. I may go ahead and put Downton up.
Listen, I told all of you before we started I may get every single one wrong, so don't go by me. But I just try to evaluate and narrow down. And I don't think Homeland can win. My only problem with House of Cards, I think it's positioned right. But honestly, I mean, I know they've got a cast of how many people here? 15 people. But really, I mean, you think of 2 people when you think of House of Cards. Mm-hmm. You don't think ensemble.
Right. And then now you've got a theory, Chris, about let's shift to those acting categories. You've got a theory about how to predict the winner of an acting category. What is it?
Well, I did the research this week because I was trying to back up what I had said about Globes turned out to be right, and is generally right, which is on a show. Typically, you know, you're better off to potentially win if your show's also nominated. I wanted to see if that was the same case with Globes, and it turned out to be 80% of the time over the past 20 years that
with
if
SAG,
you're in a with SAG, that if you're in a show category as well, you tend to win as an individual. So looking at somebody like Juliana, I've had Juliana Margulies in first forever, but in her particular case, not only is The Good Wife not nominated, so that puts her in that 20%, but I looked back at her career, even though she's the most awarded SAG performer ever, film or TV, she's tied with Alec Baldwin, she's never won unless her show has been nominated.
And wow. So that's for
ER or The Good Wife. Every time she's won individually, her show's been nominated.
Wow. Okay. So now if it's not Juliana Margulies, who's winning Best Actress?
I've got last year's winner. Again, they're sheep at SAG. They like what they like. I'm going with Maggie Smith.
Well, that's not necessarily sheep to follow quality like Dame Maggie Smith. I mean, that's you could.
Oh, she's
I
very
think.
good on there, but she's not going to be there. And I hate that. But
And they know that too. They know she's not going to be there.
Now, what's interesting is this is a category with six. It's crowded. It's six, and I guess at least what I don't like about SAG, I'll say one thing I do not like about the union is that why are there supporting awards on the film side and there are not supporting awards on the TV side? Because there's 6 nominees and every one of those is a lead in that show. And occasionally you'll get a Betty White sneaking in, would have been supporting at the Emmys, but winning lead for Hot in Cleveland.
I know the answer, but it's not a good one.
Oh, okay.
I've heard
And
Kathy Connell, the person that produces for SAG, works, I think, with SAG, and also the producer for the show over the years, talk about this, and they've only been allotted 2 hours. That's all they can get from the network, and they've got a stacked show. If they had 3 hours, I think they would move. I think they would have 4 supportings, and I think you would see a miniseries or movie ensemble award.
Well,
on the film side, there's only 5 nominees. On the TV side, there's 8. So already TV dominates. And if you were to have supporting, TV would have so many more than film, unless film splits up comedy and drama, which they do at the Globes. But that's another reason, because TV already has more than film, and if you were to split up, add 4 more for supporting, it would just be a domination.
Well, right, but Daniel, come on. I mean, honestly, I think a lot of these shows, and we'll talk about comedy in a minute. I mean, the quality of these shows is equal to that of the films that are under consideration. And I think back to, the 80s, and when we go through those lists, and there are, hundreds of people in supporting categories putting their films forward for Emmys, and I just think for the union of all people or all groups not to recognize the value of what these people do, that they're supporting, or some people call them featured players, is disheartening for them. That it's got to be, you've got to have the star power. Anyway, that's the end of my little rant. But what about in this list, if we're talking about hot shows and Orphan Black, and somebody playing lots of different roles packed into one performance? Do you think she's got any chance?
Well, that's
Daniel?
an interesting case. It is the kind of thing that could be catnip to actors. I'm sort of ruling her out, but if she wins, I'd understand how that happened. I mean, they could have nominated Orphan Black for Best Ensemble, and she would have been all of the nominees. So it is definitely that kind of feat of acting that they love. And it really is the Tatiana Maslany show. So no one's going to nominate it for ensemble, thinking how good Dylan Bruce is in that supporting role. No offense to Dylan Bruce, slight offense to Dylan Bruce, but yeah, I can see it happening, but it just feels like. I don't know. Does have enough people seen it? This is the group that awarded Betty White over and over again, and Alec Baldwin over and over again, and Maggie Smith last year. Is it the right demographic for a Tatiana Maslany win? They did like the X-Files, so they're not completely opposed to sci-fi and fantasy. But I'm not sure. I wouldn't count on it.
And Daniel, too, the other people I think about, if she were to win, we'd look back and go, okay, I see. They gave a SAG to Jennifer Garner for Alias. They gave a SAG twice to Kiefer Sutherland for 24. So action doesn't mean, action show doesn't mean they're going to, rule you out.
Usually you would go back to the Globes and see what the Globes did. But they gave it to Ruth Wilson here, and of course, she's not even nominated. The Fair was completely snubbed here at
This is exactly like Homeland a couple of years ago.
So
3
and
years.
next year you can expect The Affair to be nominated, Ruth to be nominated, because they're always playing catch up at SAG. And I have a theory about why that is. I think it's because actors are so busy acting, they don't have time to watch the shows of their fellow actors until a year later. That's why they're always playing catch up at the SAG Awards, because they're just too busy on set.
And I also
Look how
think
many Globe TV winners aren't even nominated here.
Oh, I have a different theory, Marcus, which is that they don't they're not so much busy acting. They just don't want to watch somebody else when they think I could have done that better. I could have done that better. I was up for that role. So they have, it takes a year for them to forgive Ruth Wilson for being cast in The Affair. And she's English, for goodness sake. My goodness, she took a job.
yeah,
So-
I think it is true that they are a little bit cheap, though. They will play catch up next year on The Affair if it's nominated for Emmys. You can trust that for sure. If it's not nominated for Emmys, it probably won't. But they only nominated Homeland after it swept the Emmys. For instance, Masters of Sex got a couple nominations at the Golden Globes when it first started. It underperformed at the Emmys, and you see it's not here at the SAG Awards. They're definitely aware of the adulation that's going to these shows once they happen on a large scale like the Emmys. Otherwise, they just sort of don't even know you exist.
And Anna Gunn, she only got a SAG nomination after she won the Emmy. That's the only time she got that SAG. So they are total sheep. They're followers, and that's why sometimes it's easy to predict SAG, sometimes it's not.
So now, I mean, Claire Danes won once for Homeland. Now back to Chris's theory. I mean, you would think that she'd be strongly positioned here, but nobody's expecting her to get a bookend then for this season of Homeland.
I don't think so, and I'm shocked. I mean, I'm not shocked that she's here, but I'm shocked that the cast got in when basically every critical group, Emmys, everybody else have abandoned the show.
Right. So it's sort of, we're expecting then Robin Wright to take to the stage. Is that the consensus here?
I'm going with Viola Davis.
Oh.
She is a SAG favorite because of the Help. Daniel mentioned she has 2 SAGs for the Help, and I just thought she was such a breakout star on that show. But then again, How to Get Away with Murder is not nominated for ensemble, so if I'm wrong, that's why I'm wrong, and it probably will be either Robin Wright or Maggie Smith.
Okay. Now, what about if we shift over to actor? So is Kevin Spacey on a streak? Is he going to win here? What do you think, Chris?
Of the 8 TV categories, this is the one I feel the most confident about. I think it's Kevin Spacey. I had Matthew McConaughey in first for a good while, but I mean, why are we still drinking that Kool-Aid when he couldn't win the Emmy? He couldn't win the Globe. I mean, now will be the one that he wins, now that I've jumped off this train, because I predicted him twice at those 2 shows. But Kevin Spacey just feels right here. I mean, the show is up. He dominates his show. He's also a favorite in the past. He's won for American Beauty, both individual and ensemble. Respected actor, TV and film. I mean, I think he checks all the boxes for me.
Right. Now he won he won as part of the ensemble and also for his own performance in American Beauty. But he's it's interesting when you were mentioning Juliana Margulies and the records and Alec Baldwin is because they win individually and they win for ensemble as well. So they sort of sometimes pick up 2 prizes in a night. Daniel, what do you think? Are you going to sip some more Kool-Aid? Do you think McConaughey has a shot?
No, I'm with Chris. I had McConaughey for a while, and then I don't remember exactly when, but sometime after the Golden Globe loss, I sort of moved him down because they didn't nominate it for ensemble, and that's understandable because other than McConaughey and Harrelson, who they nominated, there's really not much of an ensemble there on the show. But yeah, it was a long time ago. No one else is really catching on to to this performance in terms of awarding it since the Critics' Choice Awards last year, which I think was the Critics' Choice TV Award was the last thing he won for it. It does seem like the bloom is off the rose. I'm not quite as confident as Chris is. I can still see him winning it, but yeah, I'm not questioning Kevin Spacey as much as I am questioning the other categories, where I've already made several edits during this conversation, by the way.
Wait, now I will caution that the editors of Gold Derby are different than the top 24 users, the people that did the best at predicting the winners last year of SAG. They're going with Matthew McConaughey. Our experts are going with Matthew McConaughey, and our overall users are. So, you know, if you switch to Kevin Spacey and get it right, well, we were brilliant. And if you get it wrong, you've been warned that in this instance, we are going out on a limb.
You know, another thing about McConaughey, now that we're just sitting here talking, we talked about this on the film side with, you know, Michael Keaton may, you know, have the danger eventually of getting on stage too often, and people are like, I want to do something else. McConaughey he won so many awards this time last year that I just wonder when it came time for Emmys, when it came time for Globes, it was like, yeah, we like you a lot, but we just did that.
Mm-hmm.
Right.
And I want to beat this Boardwalk Empire drum one more time. Steve Buscemi could very well, you know, overtake Spacey and McConaughey here, especially because it was the final season, and they love him at SAG. He has how many? Let me look it up while you guys talk.
I got it.
Okay, how many does he have?
He's probably got
4
at least
wins out of 11 nominations.
4 wins. Okay.
Wow.
That was the first 2 years of Boardwalk. They won. He won himself twice, and the ensemble won twice.
So shall we move on to comedy ensemble, where
yes.
It looks like Orange is the New Black is going to just dominate, unless we're all wrong, and it's what? What would be the upset for Orange is the New Black?
I would assume Modern Family. No? I mean, it won 4 in a row. Why can't it win 5?
Yeah, I agree that Modern Family is probably the one to look at. I think it's been winning by default, and you know, maybe not for, if this were a comedy series award, it might keep winning, but there are so many actors on Orange is the New Black. It is the largest cast in this category by far. And not only that, it has that ensemble feel, you know, because unlike, you know, we were talking on the film side about Grand Budapest Hotel, which has that large cast, there's, you know, not a lot of large cast interaction on in that film, as opposed to on Orange is the New Black, where it takes place in this very small women's prison, and so ensemble scenes are very, very frequent on that show to you know, emphasize it's you know, the fact that it's an ensemble show instead of, you know, one really central lead character and a million people with like maybe 1 or 2 scenes.
It's interesting you say about the size of the ensemble, because what's interesting about, yes, Modern Family won 4 in a row, but it lost in the first year to Glee, which had the biggest ensemble up that year. But you're saying about winning by default. Refresh my memory. What won Best Comedy Series at the Emmys?
Modern Family.
Yeah, and don't we always sort of pride the Emmys on sort of getting it right and using episodes and really, you know, I'm curious now. What explain? Why did Orange is the New Black not win comedy there, Daniel? If it's sort of the best.
Well, I'm not saying it's necessarily the best in terms of, you know, their estimation. I'm saying that it's easier to give it an ensemble award than it is to give a comedy series award to a show without many laughs.
Okay.
And it can, you know, that sort of thing can still win. I mean, Ally McBeal won Best Comedy Series, but that was definitely the exception and not the rule. And I think Ally McBeal definitely was lighter in tone than Orange is the New Black is. And you know, we've seen those dramedy kind of shows struggle at the Emmys in a way that I'm not sure that when you're just judging the actors in it, I'm not sure they're going to hold the minute by minute laugh factor against Orange is the New Black.
So, Marcus, Orange is the New Black. Is it a drama with comedy or a comedy with drama? Is it a dramedy or a comma? I mean,
it's a drama. It's a drama, and every once in a while there's a little chuckle. But you know, as far as like funny dramas, I think that The West Wing was funnier than Orange is the New Black is. Certainly, Boston Legal, which is a drama, was funnier than Orange is the New Black. So, you know, didn't they tried to submit last year in drama, right? for SAG, and they got completely shut out. So they did the whole switch at the Emmys, and then of course they switched at Golden Globes and at SAG. It did work out.
They had to get a special exception made here because SAG Globes don't really care. I mean, they have a committee, but they'll do what they're asked to do for the most part. But SAG rule over the past 4 or 5 years has been if you are on the ballot, even if you don't get nominated on your first season, you're there forever. That's why American Horror Stories had to stay in drama and not move over to miniseries like they did at the Emmys. So Orange and Shameless both got special permission this year to move into comedy. And I'll say too what you were saying, Paul. At the Emmys, I think the voters focus on the word comedy in the title of the category. That's why Modern Family and all the other comedy, true comedies win, and they have to watch episodes. At SAG, though, I think they focus on the word ensemble. I don't think they even care. I mean, Desperate Housewives won this category twice. Like you said, Glee was the most recent winner before Modern Family. And in both cases, they were the biggest ensembles. Biggest equals best at SAG.
Right.
And how big is this ensemble for Orange? Do you happen to have the number?
Oh, it's huge.
The number is 40. I think there are 40.
Wow.
Oh my gosh. Wow. I mean, so if Grand Budapest wins and this wins, I mean, they're going to bankrupt SAG Awards. I mean, with the number of statues that they have to make, And I guess this probably explains why there's no time for the supporting awards on the TV side, because it's going to take 10 minutes to get all those people on stage. So maybe they should sit all the ensembles on stage to start, maybe, like a sort of Roman gladiator kind of thing, and, just shine the spotlight on who wins. So now shifting to the lead actor in a comedy series, or whatever the thing's called, outstanding performance. So last year, Ty Burrell broke Alec Baldwin's stranglehold on the category. And he's up again this year. Does anyone think he's going to win again?
Yeah, I'm predicting him. For a while I had William H. Macy up there just because he's such a well-respected actor for Shameless. But the fact that Shameless is not nominated for comedy ensemble, that's when I switched. After Chris sent us this great email with all those facts from the past 20 years, that's when I switched to Ty Burrell. Now they repeat more than anyone else, more than the Emmys. The SAGs love repeating, and they did it last year with Burrell. Why not this year?
I'm also going with Ty Burrell. I think this category could legitimately go to anybody but probably Louis C.K. He's the only one who I really wouldn't, I really can't imagine would at all win this award. I think Jim Parsons could win. I think Eric Stonestreet could win for the same reason Ty Burrell won last year. He's a standout. The showy sort of comic relief supporting performance on a comedy series that Ty Burrell won last year. Sean Hayes won, so that they like him for that reason. William H. Macy could win because he's possibly arguably the most respected actor in this category. And then Ty Burrell won last year, but I'm picking Burrell just out of the inertia of the SAG Awards. Sometimes I think he'll repeat.
And Chris?
Boy, I could be talked out. I mean, I don't think Louis C.K. I don't think Eric Stonestreet. Stonestreet just simply because I think if they're going to go modern, they're going to go Ty Burrell. I've got Jim Parsons. I really can't back it up too well other than he's one of the 3 people here that's in an ensemble nominee, and I'm going that route this year. And secondly, they are sheep, but they don't like to be totally clueless. I mean, I just think him having 4 Emmys, at some point he's gonna break through here at SAG, and he's gonna win a SAG award too.
Right, 0 SAGs because of Alec Baldwin's dominance. How much do you think? And I think part of his Emmy wins, especially last year, is down to the syndication of the show. So in this instance, this versus the film side where there's screeners. I mean, with over 100,000 plus members voting, it really just does become which shows have you seen and watched, and certainly it's pretty darn hard to escape Big Bang Theory if you're flicking around the dial at any time of the day or night.
What I think the voters, I mean, I don't know, I mean, they don't keep up with records and things like we do. They probably assume he's won at SAG a couple of times by now.
Right, it is sort of shocking that he hasn't, to me anyway. So we're saying that he's got certainly our odds yet again. The experts, users, and top 24 are all saying Jim Parsons, and the editors are split between Parsons and Burrell.
But I love what you said about Macy. I mean, there have been many times over the years where you just look at a category, especially after the show, and you're like, oh, I should have seen that coming. The most respected actor, if there's one that stands out over the other four, just as a career, they often win at SAG. So I could see Macy winning here. He's only won once in 9 times, though, so it's not like they have an overwhelming love for him like they do certain people.
That happened last year with Helen Mirren, right? On the
Helen Mirren was she was the filler nominee at every award show. Never, I mean, nobody ever took her seriously, and yet she won, you know, the movie miniseries here.
Right. Dame Helen Mirren being described as a filler nominee does it makes me smile.
She wasn't even close to the top of anybody's predictions at any award show the whole year.
Well, you know, it's so interesting. We talk about this and we treat it like a horse race and the handicapping and all that. But for these people, they take it very personally. And I think of Helen Mirren, and I believe it was at the Emmys when she won for Elizabeth, and she was quite snippy about the fact that she was delighted to have won the Emmy, but pointing out that the BAFTAs, her home country of Britain, had not nominated her for their award for Elizabeth. And boy, they know. They keep tabs on these things. So I'm sure Jim Parsons is painfully aware he might have 4 Emmys on the shelf, but there's room. He's got a little slot. There's a space on that bookshelf.
It's a tall, thin award. It'll fit in there.
Yeah. And I don't know who's gonna win this category this year, but I can pretty much guarantee next year it'll be Jeffrey Tambor. They're gonna play catch up. We should mention Transparent just dominated the Golden Globes. It's completely snubbed here. But talk about well-respected actor.
If he had been in this group, I'd be predicting him.
Yeah, let's just open the prediction center for next year and just predict him right now.
And Paul, what you said too about Helen Mirren and Britain, we are the only ones I think that really love to the point of tons of awards and nominations to Downton Abbey. Don't they get zero respect in England?
Yeah. The BAFTAs is an odd creature. I mean, on the film side, what's fascinating is they've really done a big shift. A couple of years ago, almost a decade ago, they changed their calendar so that they would happen during Oscar voting. And a couple of years ago, they changed their voting so that it would mirror that of the Academy with branches and the like. But on the TV side, they lump everything together. The one-off TV movies, miniseries, and drama series all get lumped together, and there'll only be 4 nominees. So, it's ridiculous. There's so many things that don't get nominated over there. So, yeah, Downton hasn't had any love from BAFTAs in years, and even when it did, it wasn't exactly their favorite. So it's interesting, we were talking about timing and such. So now switching over to comedy actress and Julia Louis-Dreyfus in Veep. So was she snubbed for the first season of Veep here? Or I'm looking at, she was won twice and she's up again, or how did that work?
She lost to Betty White, I believe.
Okay.
Oh yeah, I've got it right here. I wrote them all down. Hold on. Because I was doing those stats and I wrote all the names down. In fact, this category, we talked about the 80%. It's even more in this category. Only 2 people in 20 years have won without having an ensemble. Not in this particular category, but
no. But she was she was nominated and won last year, and
that was her first time to win since '98. Julia. The year before was Tina Fey for 30 Rock on her next to last try, and 2 years before that were Betty White.
Right, but Julia Louis-Dreyfus, when she won last year, that was for the 2nd season of Veep, or
yes,
that's right. Okay, so Veep didn't get any love from them. Again, what we're talking about, playing catch up for that first season. They didn't get nominated. Is that right, Daniel? Or
I'm not sure. This would be for the 3rd season of Veep. I think she was nominated the last 2 years, possibly. I don't think
the show was nominated last year when she won. She was up the previous year, but the show was not.
Okay, because they wouldn't have needed to play catch up because she Veep aired its first season right before the Emmys, and then the Emmys picked it up right away, so that the SAG Awards already knew about it. So,
Gotcha.
if it had aired after the Emmys, the Emmy eligibility period, and SAG would have been the first to get to it, they never would have touched it. They never do. That's why
Now,
I'm sort of surprised that Viola Davis was even nominated for How to Get Away with Murder, because they're never the first to catch on to these sorts of shows.
So that could show us back with Viola Davis the strength of her support that she did. And speaking of strength of support, so Julia Dreyfus, across the board, everyone, experts, editors, top 24, we're all saying she's going to win. And it looks like, and I'm going to turn to Daniel for a hard-to-pronounce name, the woman from Orange is
Amy Poehler.
No. Poor Amy is in third. But the woman from Orange is the New Black, Daniel, is the only one that looks like she's got the potential to upset.
Yeah, Uzo Aduba is the actress, and I've actually got her in third place. I do think she can win, but I've got Julie Bowen in second place. They're not trendy at the SAG Awards, so they don't care that her moment has sort of passed necessarily. She's essentially a lead actor on Modern Family. She's a member of that ensemble, but she sort of fits that rule. The show is nominated for Best Ensemble. They go for the supporting performances sometimes, like Megan Mullally from Will and Grace won here. That could also help Uzo Aduba, who has a much showier role. But yeah, I think if somebody's going to beat Julia Louis-Dreyfus, who I'm also predicting, it'll be one of those two women. But right now I've got Bowen in second place and Aduba in third, and then I think that's it. Those are the only three people who could win.
Except according to Marcus.
Well, I have Julia Louis-Dreyfus, and I was just thinking how she could win this thing every year like Alec Baldwin did. However, Veep will probably never win because it's not an ensemble. It's a one-woman show who kind of has a fun cast around her, but no one looks at that and says, "Oh my gosh, that's a great ensemble." Like, compared to Big Bang Theory, where Jim Parsons is the most famous, but that's more of an ensemble show. But yeah, I have Julia for number one. I have Uzo in number two, only because she seems to be the it girl right now. But I don't feel like these Screen Actors Guild voters. I don't think they know who she is, and that's really stupid to say because she's nominated. But when they reward someone like Maggie Smith and Helen Mirren and Alec Baldwin, these are A-list stars that everyone in the world knows. Uzo Aduba, people just don't know her stuff.
Yeah. Okay. Well, that's it. I assumed you were going to say Amy Poehler. That's why I turned to you.
Oh, no. Yeah. I have her in fourth place, but her show's not nominated. Edie Falco's show's not nominated, so I don't think they can do it this year.
It is kind of shocking when you go back and you see Tina Fey having 4, Betty White having 2. It's just it's kind of amazing. A couple of the women from Desperate Housewives winning. We've talked about the sheep mentality, or not sheep. That's I think that's being slightly dismissive, but certainly the embracing of populist and populars repeatedly. So the one things that they can't embrace repeatedly, I guess, are the TV movie mini actors and actresses. So what are we saying on those? So TV movie mini actor. Are we all going with who we've got a front runner?
I have Billy Bob Thornton. He's the most famous, arguably. Maybe Benedict Cumberbatch, maybe more Googled, but Billy Bob Thornton kind of has that more respected feel about him, and he just won the Golden Globe last week, which I know doesn't really influence them, but it shows this level of support for him from the industry.
This one's tough. This is a tough. I think other than Adrian Brody, I can make a case for the other 4. Do they, on Benedict, who just won the Emmy for this same role, do they look at him on the film side and go, well, we know he's not going to win over there. Let's make sure he wins here. I don't know. Same with Mark Ruffalo. Mark Ruffalo's in the same boat. Richard Jenkins, I would argue, is as respected as anybody in that category, and probably fits the profile of more of these working actors than any of these other 4. Just, a hard-working character actor, never gets to be the lead. Here he gets to be the lead. This is the only group other than the Oscars that nominated him that year that he got the Oscar nomination. So they like him.
Right, and like with J.K. Simmons on the film side, I mean, he may well have worked with a lot of these people over the years. He's kind of the Kevin Bacon of character actors, isn't he? I mean, he's done lots of roles like J.K. Simmons, where small roles, but working on projects for a week or two, and probably worked with a lot of these people. It's interesting that Martin Freeman's not nominated. I mean, instead, Adrian Brody for Houdini gets in there. That was a bit of a head scratcher, wasn't it, Marcus?
Yeah, I don't know what happened there. It's sometimes you just can't explain these snubs.
I think because lead and supporting's combined, he was on the ballot twice and hurt himself.
Oh, for Sherlock, I mean.
Sherlock and Fargo, yeah.
Got you. Oh, isn't that interesting? See,
I'm just
yet
guessing.
again,
I don't know.
Why they should have supporting. And then just over on the what they call female actor, the rest of us call actress. It overwhelmingly every group is saying Frances McDormand, and I assume are all of us saying the same.
We don't have an ensemble nomination to go with it, so it makes it difficult. But to me, I mean, that's a stellar group there. I mean, who do you say is the most respected out of that group? Cicely Tyson, Julia Roberts, Frances McDormand, Maggie Gyllenhaal, Ellen Burstyn. I mean, come on. I could see him going for Cicely Tyson in a Maggie and a Helen Mirren kind of way last year. You know, Ruby Dee won for 2 minutes on screen and on the film side a handful of years ago. I could see that happening, but I think this is just me trying to analyze it. I think just the simple fact that Richard Jenkins is nominated, because he's not a big name like the other guys, means they saw Olive Kitteridge. And I think that's going to help. I think some of these others might have gotten in. Ellen Burstyn, they may not have even seen that movie to nominate her.
Right, right. And what's nice on back to Richard Jenkins is that it's him and not Bill Murray. That they went with the lead in that as opposed to the name when they were given they mixed the supporting and the lead together. Well, that's it looks like it'll be fun. And certainly we've given people pause, including myself, on to what to change. Have you changed it any more yet, Daniel?
Well, I moved Ellen. I had Ellen Burstyn in 4th place. I moved her up to 3rd place. I have Frances McDormand winning and Cicely Tyson in 2nd. Again, you know, Frances McDormand, you know, Olive Kitteridge seems like the stronger bet in general, and she's respected enough to win. But then you've got the veteran factors all over there. Who else have I moved? I moved Jim Parsons up to 2nd. I could move him up to 1st before the awards, but not yet. I actually did switch Best Drama Ensemble to Downton Abbey, but that might also...
Oh my gosh.
Before.
We led you down the wrong path there.
Well, there'll be a...
My strategy was to talk you into things now, and I'm going to go change myself in a few minutes.
Okay. I might go to actually, because it's a big cast, and again, it's a populist group, and it's the most watched show in that category, arguably, compared to Downton Abbey. So, you know, that could certainly win. And, of course, Peter Dinklage. I'm actually now worried about Peter Dinklage even possibly winning. I wouldn't rule him out entirely. These my predictions might look very different now than they will on Sunday morning. These might move all over the place.
Well, everyone's got until Sunday afternoon. I think the show starts at 5 o'clock Pacific, 8 o'clock Eastern. So you've got until about an hour before that to make your predictions. And some, if not all of us, will be back after the show to either celebrate our brilliant foresight or blame SAG. You know, we'll blame the union for getting it wrong, right? I mean, we're never wrong; they are. So, see you Sunday.